39%. According to Time magazine, 39% of U.S. prisoners do not pose a threat to society. These people are causing overcrowding in our prison systems. They are housed in environments where living conditions are unhealthy and prisoners are treated unfairly. Roughly 564,000 nonviolent prisoners are taking up space, time, and money from American society. 564,000 people who can be rehabilitated and put back on the right path. 564,000 people who can be contributing to better our society and our community. There are ways to change the system and create something better, programs and services that will change lives. First of all, prison systems are incredibly overcrowded. The Issues and Controversies article about prison overcrowding states that there are approximately 2 million people in the United States prison system alone, yet there are none that are taking steps towards improving lives and bettering inmates. They have taken small-time criminals and turned them into big-time offenders. It's an overcrowded system of downhill spiraling inmates who are forced to deal with awful conditions. Many inmates are treated unfairly by prison employees. Few employees take the time to provide help to nonviolent inmates in their process to become a better citizen. They assume inmates will continue on their path of wrongdoing. Because of this, many employees talk down to inmates, treat them unfairly, and even discriminate against their race. When inmates are succumbed to these environments for a long period of time, they start to believe that they will truly not amount to anything. When that happens, small-time inmates become big-time offenders, which ultimately creates more overcrowding. The number of people serving time in prisons is rapidly increasing. In fact, Issues and Controversies states that between 1990 and 2002, the number of men serving time in prison increased by 84%, and the number of women increased by 121%. This shows how ineffective the system is. Secondly, the overcrowding of prison has also created living conditions that are very unhealthy. Living conditions can affect attitude, self-esteem, and personality. The inmates are not provided with proper nutrition, health care, beds, or space that they need to sustain them and help them to rehabilitate. Prison cells are so small that prisoners do not have any personal space, especially if they are overcrowded. Penal Reform International stated, overcrowding can be so severe that prisoners sleep in shifts on top of each other, share beds, or even tie themselves to the window bars in order to sleep standing up. The inmates don't even have a bed to sleep on. When offenders aren't given a bed to sleep on, how can the system expect an outcome of rehabilitation? The prisoners don't even have proper health care. It's easy to imagine that prisoners will often need health care to keep them healthy. Sadly, the lack of care leaves inmates to suffer alone. The American Civil Liberties Union, or ACLU, worked with multiple different agencies to file a lawsuit in Nebraska on behalf of 11 inmates due to lack of health care and overcrowding. The lawsuit states that there was a prisoner who had diabetes and was left untreated, and resulted in the loss of his eyesight. ACLU also stated that there was a man who complained of frequent chest pains. He was left to die alone after he had a heart attack in his cell. When did it become acceptable to leave them to die sick and alone? Prisoners are denied basic rights of freedom, and it is not rehabilitation. In retaliation to these issues, things can be changed. The government doesn't have to sit here and let the system continue to corrupt so many citizens that could easily be transformed. They could work to change the way that prisoners are treated. They can even save more money and save lives. It costs each day to house each criminal, and that money comes from taxpayers. People who follow the laws must pay to house the people who committed crimes such as writing bad checks. Steve Smith, a professor of criminal justice at Ball State University, stated, "Each time we send someone to jail for a nonviolent crime, the taxpayers have to pay for that person to sit in a cell, watch television, and become less employable. There are options to putting people behind bars. There could be programs nonviolent offenders could be required to take. The systems could make them aware of their actions, encourage them that they are capable of being a better person, and provide them with the resources that they need to become better themselves. In addition, many of the prisoners are there for drug-related charges due to their addictions. Many people house them Money spent to house them would be better spent if it was spent on rehabilitation for drug addicts. There should also be programs that help offenders to find stable supervised jobs and correlating mandatory classes that will help them to be able to better themselves. Issues and controversies also stated that many people agreed that the idea of jobs coupled with house arrest would be very effective. They stated if criminal offenders were allowed to hold jobs paid for by state subsidies, critics note, they could learn and hone valuable skills while serving the community. The system would cost far less and take up a lot less space than traditional prisons. It would allow nonviolent offenders to better our society and to contribute to our society while allowing them to help to better themselves. The system would lower cost, overcrowding, and allow more money to be spent on rehabilitation rather than housing inmates. In conclusion, we can help these inmates, change lives, and change the amount of crimes on the streets. We can create safer conditions for inmates and provide them with humane rights. We can better these people, help them to help our society, and make the system an effective and helpful system. Doing so would ultimately lower the overcrowding in prisons. We can't do this without bringing attention to the awful situations that inmates face each and every day. We can't continue to sit and wait for change. There needs to be change. There needs to be a fight for uncorrupted and a better society. There needs to be a fight against prison overcrowding, and it needs to be done soon. Thank you.